Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 8th installation of Coming Clean with the Dirty Dozen, where we put the finest explorers in your living room twice a week. My name is Aron Arngrimsson, and I'm your host tonight. And before we carry on, as usual, I'd just like to say hi to the crew behind the scenes that are doing this community project with us and say thank you. Where are you guys? Hey,
Hi,
how's it
Aaron.
going, Jeff and Mick? All good?
Yeah, all good, thanks.
Are you okay being back on full schedule for now, twice a week?
Yeah, it's a slog, but we're working through it.
How's everything in London, Vic? Is restrictions open up a little bit?
There's some confusing advice out there, but I think the main aim is to just keep safe, stay at home.
All right, fair enough. All right, thanks guys for being here once again. See you in a bit. Okay, so before we carry on, I'd like to talk a little bit about what Dirty Dozen Expeditions is, because usually we're not behind four walls all the time. Usually we find ourselves on expeditions in Truck Lagoon, Bikini Atoll, Galapagos, Chernobyl, Myanmar, you name it. We're all over the place all the year. Right now, there's obviously a little bit of break going on, but we're starting to see through the light as things start to calm down. But anyway, in the meantime, while it's all still happening, we're happy to be here with you online to share some positive thoughts, have a great conversation about diving, and bring out all our special guests and friends, and just have a good time in general. So our special guest tonight is Nick Hollis, a dear friend of mine. And if we go into Nick's background a little bit, he is the driving force between the Hollis brand since its launch in 2007. Nick's passion for scuba diving began earlier than most as an 8-year-old with his father, Bob Hollis. Under their wings, Oceanic was founded in 1972 by Bob Hollis, where they started producing recreational products that we all know and love. During the years in between, Bob spent his spare time designing new products with a technical diving market in mind. He imagined and built his first CCR, the Oceanic Rebreather, amongst others. And then in 2005, 2006, Bob started creating a technical product line with his son, Nick, who's with us tonight. And in 2007, Hollis Gear was born. Today, with 20 years under his belt at diving trade shows, Nick leads the design of gear for both the recreational and technical diving community and markets. He focuses on the customer experience and works to continuously expand the diving and rebreather community with the Prism 2. So, we know each other pretty well. I'd like to welcome Nick Hollis. Where are you, buddy?
I'm here. How's it going?
Hey. Good to see you, brother. How you doing?
You too. I'm doing good. Doing well, staying healthy, trying to stay busy during this quarantine. It's been interesting times for sure. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm here in Kiev, quite a few time zones from where you are. You're in Salt Lake City, is that right?
I am. Yes, here in Salt Lake.
How's
the
lockdown like where you are?
It's interesting, but it's a little less restrictive than other places here in the States. You know, a lot of states have been on a mandatory stay at home, and here in Utah, it's been a little less restrictive. We've had a lot of restaurants closed down and other businesses closed down. Our business here at Hewish is definitely a little bit different. We have less people in the building now, and we're on, keeping social distancing and things like that. But it's been definitely sure.
So how's your old man? How's Bob? Is he okay in lockdown? Do you have any funny lockdown requests recently?
Every day. Every day.
Like what?
Lately, because for those that don't know, my dad's living in an assisted living community now, and he's obviously a lot older. So in places like that, it's really important to maintain distancing and keep it very, very clean and safe. And he's been asking us to make special trips to the store and things like that. And the most important has been getting his wine and vodka and his favorite, which is KFC, which is for those that aren't in the U.S., it's a very quick meal of unhealthy food.
So how have you been entertaining yourself in lockdown in Salt Lake City?
You know, a lot of things around the house. We've been mountain biking. We've been riding, you know, motorcycles, trying to get outside as much as we can and respect the quarantine, but still get outside and do things, which is really important. Getting projects done around the house. And, you know, here at work, obviously, it is a lot different. The business has slowed down quite a bit. So we've been spending that time getting projects done, interfacing with customers, staying engaged with customers, trying to drive business to our retailers as much as possible. But it's been a lot different the last few months for sure.
That's a good point. I mean, have any cool projects risen out of the lockdown situation at work and at home? Have you learned any new skills?
Some new skills at home.
Brit's making you cook, or
yeah, learning how to cook. But you know, here at work, we have a few efforts going on trying to, you know, dive locally. Obviously, is one of those. Hewish Outdoors put out a few weeks ago the Dive Local campaign. Support your local retailer. We've been shipping a lot of the, you know, face protection, the non-medical masks for our customers that they can wear to and from the store and at different places outside their house. So just small things like that, and also staying engaged with customers have been keeping us busy online. We've done a lot of Facebook Live videos, and I've been hosting some of those. So this is my first one, kind of as a special guest, which is nice to do. But our fair share online on Facebook Live doing videos like that. So
yeah, you are on the other side for this video, so it's actually time for you to come clean with the Dirty Dozen. Let's put you in the hot seat.
Oh.
Are you ready? All right. So you didn't have like an average start a career in diving like most people. Tell us, Nick, how it is growing up with Bob Hollis as your father.
Right. So obviously he's had a long history in diving. You know, he started Oceanic in 1972, and long before that, he was developing a lot of his own gear because at that time he really didn't have the gear available to him. So he was actually making a lot of his own equipment for diving, for filming, and he was always on the go. You know, he at an early age for both my brother and I have a twin brother. You know, we were always traveling with him to different places. And I think even at the age of 6 or 7, we'd been to Italy more than a few times and other places throughout Europe and visiting with distributors that we had or our own companies in places like Germany. So, you know, going back to his start, there's a picture of him with some of his very first underwater camera housings, which is how he got started in water and diving and filming and things like that. So we were definitely involved with him throughout the early ages, through elementary school. We were working at the company with him, building products and spending holidays and summer breaks, learning different parts of the business, I would say.
And what an early chance, like 8 years old, right? So tell us a little bit about like your first dive. Like how was it?
So I would say our first dive was more of a, here's what we're going to do, more than, do you guys want to go scuba dive? We didn't really know much about what that was like, obviously. So our first dives were in Monterey Bay around the age of 8. I think we kind of fought that one, but after that first dive, we really enjoyed it and have been on a lot of trips with him ever since then. But all over with our dad, you know, Grand Cayman, places like Australia, New Guinea, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here. But we've been some really fun places with him, and I would say that's part of the more memorable experience that we've had, my brother and I, with our dad diving.
Yeah, and here's something that most people maybe don't know. You have a twin brother. His name is Zach. I think like the first time I met him, when I had a meeting with you in 2012, there was that classic double take, like, oh no, you're talking about my twin brother. I bet many people have had that moment on trade shows. He dives as well, right?
He does. Yeah, he's a diver as well. As you mentioned, he's probably been called Nick more times than he'd prefer, because he was really behind the scenes manufacturing the products and behind the scenes in product development, engineering, things like that. So he didn't really get the opportunity from the very beginning to be at a lot of the trade shows and meeting, a lot of the retailers and things like that. So he was called Nick in the very beginning. Yeah.
Fair enough. I have a little quote from Mr. Brett Gillum from TDI, which I thought was quite interesting when we were looking at this interview. It goes as, Bob is one of the great personalities of diving, last to leave the party, first to explore a new dive site, and not afraid to step across the line into the wild side, with a deadpan sense of humor that catches a lot of folks off guard. So, Nick, are you as wild as your dad was?
I would say that we're right up there, but I can't tell all the stories.
You gotta tell. Sorry.
Yeah.
You gotta tell me a story about Bob when he went to the Andrea Doria. So tell me a little bit about that.
So that's probably one of the dives or one of the expeditions he's most, I would say, famous for. And this goes back to I think it was 74. He made 2 different expeditions to the Andrea Doria, and the first one he funded. And the goal of that expedition was to recover the purser safe from the Doria. He made that trip with Don Rodacher and Chris DeLucci, and they actually built a habitat that they called Mother. And the goal of building a habitat was to actually lower it down to the shipwreck and live inside of this habitat for days at a time. And I think they spent a total of 30 days in this chamber, and over a period of several days or several dives down to the wreck. But they were living in it for days at a time and doing some pretty incredible stuff. They would exit the chamber, work on the wreck, try and recover the safe. And they made a second trip because they didn't recover it on the first trip. And they made a second trip with Jack McKenney and Peter Gimble. And they eventually were able to penetrate inside the wreck, locate the safe, and pull it out.
Yeah, I think there's some famous line out there somewhere that Bob probably has the most hours on the Andrea Doria in history.
That's right. Yeah, I've heard that one too. And I think with all the time they spent living in saturation on the second trip and in this chamber on the first trip, it's probably possible. But pretty incredible story, and you could actually download or watch that video of the second dive or the recovery of the safe on YouTube. But pretty cool seeing them recover the safe. And here's a picture of Bob with Doria, life preserver. After
Nice.
his trip. Yeah,
It's an incredible story. So tell me a little bit about your current role at Hollis. So most people know you as the face behind the brand, but what's happening kind of behind the scenes?
right. So right now I'm the brand manager with Hewish Outdoors for the Oceanic and Hollis brands, and also Hollis Rebreather, which is really similar to my previous role at AUP, our prior company, as product manager and among other roles with that company. But it's a demanding role. I think brand managers work with different groups throughout the facility and are quite busy. But obviously, my favorite part about it is developing the gear and spending time testing the equipment. So that's probably my most favorite thing about being the brand manager here.
But when did you actually join the family business? Like what year, and what was your first role?
So that goes back to 2000, and I think it was 5 that I started full time. Back at that time, the prior company was called AUP, and Oceanic was the main brand that we had at that time. We didn't have Hollis at that point in time. Going to college in Chico, California, and my dad made a phone call and let me know he had desires to start a technical line, and probably as maybe one of the ways to get me to leave the party town I was living in and come back home and actually get so I came back home, and we ended up working on a product line, which eventually became Hollis in 2007. And, that's how we kind of started the Hollis line. So. Yeah.
We got a few Prism divers online asking questions and stuff. And guys, those that are watching, remember you can ask Nick questions directly. But maybe you can take people on a timeline through the Prism from beginning to end. So when did you start developing the Prism?
So the Prism actually started long before Hollis. So back before Hollis, there was a company called Steam Machines, and Peter Reedy had started that company and developed the concept of the idea for the Prism, and developed a friendship with my dad. And they talked about ways to change the design, or to change the way it was manufactured and improve the product a little bit. So at that time, it was called the Prism Topaz, which led to some redesign of the product and the ways that we manufacture it, which led to the Prism 2. And that was in 2000, I want to say in 2010, that we finally released it under the Hollis brand. It took probably 2 years. And what we purchased as the original Prism really is nothing that we sell today. I mean, the design of it, the great work of breathing, the functionality of the product is still the same, but every part down to just the injection molded pieces that make up the Prism have all been redesigned. And so for the last, I would say 10 years, we've been selling this product with some minor changes. Recently, we released our new CE model. That took us several years to get CE, and that process is long and extensive, but now we're able to sell the product in Europe. And now we also have the back-mounted counterlung version, which we've had a lot of demand for as well.
So I mean, I can tell you, well, as you know, we started using the Prism at around 2011, 2012, personally at Team Blue Immersion, and although I've dove many rebreathers since, and obviously specialize in rebreather technical trips around the world, the Prism has been with me from day one, and it's still my weapon of choice. And I actually, just like you say, the Prism 1 or the Prism 2, the original model, to what it is now has actually not gone through that many changes. And I've been using it, in the phase of my life where we were doing deep diving, 120, 130 meters. We were using them in caves in Mexico. We were using them in ice diving in Finland, in Ojamo. We were using them obviously in truck and bikini. And maybe it's a shameless plug, maybe it's not, but I mean, it's worked for me in many different environments. So I've been really happy with it.
Yeah, it's been a reliable product. We really haven't needed to make many changes to it. I think initially my dad, the way his mind works is how do we make products better for our customers, and in bringing the Prism under the Hollis brand, there really wasn't much to improve on. The design was excellent, great work. It's really, really efficient. And the main thing is it's reliable. There's less moving parts or working parts in that product compared to other rebreathers out there. Everyone on the market has a little bit of some good and bad about it, but the Prism is known for being super reliable, and we really didn't have to change much about that. So it's really just the way that we manufacture it, and now a lot of it is injection molded. We can mass produce these in much larger quantities for our customers.
So obviously with AUP and the rest of it being a family company, and now you've transitioned being with Hewish in Salt Lake City, how has that transition been for you personally and professionally?
It's been quite the transition. Along with that came a lot of changes, moving personally to Salt Lake City. Moving the business was quite a task. And, the good of it is we really think that our prior work with our dad and the way he operated with the company, he was very hands-on. He would work, in the day-to-day business with the employees and have a direct connection with them. So the way his mind being innovative and, his excitement about products led to the same, us working in the business the same way. And we've tried to bring that into the new Hewish company with these brands and drive forward. So it's been a lot of fun.
So obviously you've had a long time in the diving industry. I mean, 20 years at DEMA. We were just talking like before we did the show. I mean, you were technically underage when you went to your first show. So you've had a chance to follow the technical diving industry evolving over the years. What are your impressions been? Big changes throughout the time?
Right. So it's evolved quite a bit since 2007. Back then there was only a few companies in technical diving manufacturing, and since then, probably the biggest change is the amount of new technical lines in the market today. There's a lot of new lines out of Europe, some here in the US, bringing out some really interesting new designs and products. So it's allowing the market to evolve and change and improve a little bit. We're all getting wiser to dive safety as well as technical diving. So things are definitely evolving and improving, I would say.
So let's fast forward a bit to 2020 today. I mean, how do you feel working in the industry now compared to 2007? And what are the kind of greatest challenges you've overcome to reach where you are right now?
Between then and now, some of the biggest challenges, of course, as I mentioned, is the transition to the new company. We've had a lot of milestones, both at the previous company and today, in all the lines that we manufacture. But I think, in terms of highlights or things that we're most proud of in the company is any way we can make a difference with the products that we sell. Anything from a rebreather to just a dive mask. If we can make somebody's dive experience more enjoyable or better, that's what really excites us about this market.
And that's kind of a good segue to my next question. What product are you maybe most proud of within Hollis?
Right. As I mentioned, I think that there's a lot of different products we're proud of because I think that, those designs were created to enable just a better experience overall. We talked about the Prism. That's definitely one that I think is the most exciting and allows just a lot more exploration and longer bottom times, and it's really interesting the way the product works. So that's probably one that we're most excited about.
We actually have a question from a Prism diver right now. He's just asking. A lot of divers bash the Prism 2 for having plastic in the molding instead of being made from stainless steel and aluminum. Can you tell us a little bit about the benefits of injection molding compared to using other materials?
Right. So I think that thermoplastics in general have come a long way over the last many years, and some of the benefits are that the product is very, very strong, but also super lightweight. So you can travel with it, and as you know, making all the bikini and truck and places like that. The Prism is easy to travel with. You get all the benefits of a rebreather in a much lighter weight package that's compact and easy to travel with. So you don't need to have parts machined from stainless steel and aluminum to get the benefits of a rebreather. So that's kind of one of the things that we did with the Prism. Again, with prior design, a lot of the parts were cast molded. Now they're injection molded, which gave us a much finer tolerance of the parts. But still, the benefit is that it's lightweight, easy to travel with, and all the other benefits.
Yeah, I have to say, I found myself in places where you don't want the machine to break, where you are possibly like 7,000 kilometers from the nearest service station, and that's come in handy quite a few times. Reliability is the reason why I hang on to it, I have to be honest.
Right. And
so
testing, just on that point, we've done a lot of testing with different materials with the Prism. We've looked at alternatives or ways to improve the durability. That question has come up quite a bit, but we've never had the need to change the design of any of those parts of the materials because we just don't see those break. The perception is that because it's made of a plastic or a thermoplastic that it might be a little less durable, but that's just not the case.
So obviously we were speaking a little bit about you being on the dive show circuit for, a couple of decades. Can you tell the people out there about the industry community at a dive show? Like, we all know once we go there quite a lot. There's a family atmosphere. There's a lot of things going on. What kind of sticks out to your mind about being at these dive shows? Do you still look forward to it?
I very much do. It's almost like a reunion in a lot of ways, because it's a tight community. Especially with our company, we have people that have been with us for many, many years, and agencies or manufacturers we're very close with. We get to see them throughout the year at different shows and events, whether it's a local show or a much larger show like DEMA or BOAT or places like that. And every year we get together. It's a tight community, and we get to see each other, and it can be wild, as you know. Some late nights and in places like Vegas, some other fun things going on, but it's always a good time.
It's always a good time. Just drink a big glass of water in the morning.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about, when you're at the show, when you're at home, when you're at the office, how do you work with divers at the brand level? Because that's something I noticed in my cooperation with the company for like 8 years. That's very much a part of your ethos.
Yeah, I think one thing that makes us a little bit different, and a lot of other companies do this too, but we really enjoy interacting with our customers on social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram. We have different pages set up for our brands, for our products, and I think that they're always surprised to reach out, ask a question, and when they get a response from myself or my brother or somebody that's directly involved with the brand on a higher level, they really enjoy that. And I think that it kind of helps us connect with other divers in the marketplace and encourages them to maybe dive more and try some different things.
We actually have another question from, it's Justin. Hey, Justin, how you doing?
Hey, Justin.
He's asking if you could explain briefly the difference between the original Prism and the CE mark Prism.
Right. So there really isn't a lot of difference between the two. We've always had a design that was very efficient and had the safeties built into it to ensure a safe product in general. But, with CE, what you test for is endurance of the product. You test for duration, work of breathing, everything that makes a rebreather, safe to dive. But with CE testing, along with that came some new marking. So some of the hoses, the oxygen hoses, are labeled green. The head doesn't allow you to reverse assemble the breathing loop. Just some basic things like that. But overall, we really didn't change much mechanically on the product because, again, it was already a solid unit, didn't need a lot of adjustment or modification to pass the CE testing. So people in Europe, yeah, they're going to know the difference because if they're from there and anything that they buy or use has to be CE rated. But here in the States, we don't have the same testing. So you'll notice a lot of the companies here that sell rebreathers aren't required to have CE. But if you want to sell into the European marketplace, you have to have the mark.
Fair enough. So I think you started your ambassador program in like 2012 or something like that. Can you tell us a little bit how that's developed with, divers all around the world giving feedback on the products and how that's kind of come to shine in some of your product line?
So the ambassador program was set up really as a way to communicate with other divers in different countries, because us being in the U.S. primarily, we wanted to be able to show our products in different environments, whether it's, the caves in Mexico or the waters in Australia or the UK or Europe or places like that. So we try to get ambassadors from every different part of the world to use the products and be able to show, whether it's their fans on social media, the use of them, or to try and encourage younger divers to get into the sport. But it's also helped us to one, test the products. So before products make it to the marketplace, we want to make sure they're properly tested. We use our ambassadors to test them in those different environments, to get photos and reports back to us to make sure the product's been properly tested prior to being sold. So.
Yeah. So, well, good example maybe could be the Katana. I think when you released the Katana 2 just recently, you were working with Ed. Is that right? For the modification for the Kiss. I mean, that's quite unique.
It is, yeah. So we worked with Ed probably for close to 2 years to put that product to market. And among other side mount divers in different environments that also dive side mount, there's a couple of unique things about the Katana that stick out. One of which is the fact that it does allow the Kiss rebreather to be able to just adapt to the harness without any modification or extra parts you have to add on, which is pretty unique. As you know, Ed is a pretty heavy, Kiss sidewinder user.
Yeah.
And he said, well, if we make these small modifications, it'll work a lot better. So a lot of that credit goes to him and Mike at Kiss. They both are great guys and allowed us to make those changes. But a few other things, we did adapt some of our prior designs of the SMS series to the Katana. like the upper dump and some of the other design elements of the product. But we were happy to work with guys like Ed and a few others in different areas to bring some of those ideas to the katana.
So, well, I wanted to ask you kind of what is your interest in diving at the moment? I certainly find with myself, I've been through many different like periods of diving where it's my interest kind of shifts. What is your main interest in diving been with your father's background?
So it's been all over the place, from rebreather diving to side mount. I mean, lately I've loved a lot of the side mount diving, but it depends on the environment. You know, if we're in places like here, the picture in Socorro, I was diving on the rebreather. I was also diving side mount there, but lately it's been a lot of side mount. But coming up, we have our trip to truck again, and it's time to get the P2 back out and start getting some hours again on that thing. And I'm really excited about that as well. So it really depends on the environment. I mean, we just made some dives in Florida several months ago with Ed on the katana. We did some, rebreather stuff prior to that, and it kind of just switches based on where we're diving at.
So what's kind of been your most memorable dive experience in your life, you think?
Most memorable. I would say that the times that my brother Zach and I have spent with our dad in New Guinea has been probably the most memorable. So for those that don't know, Dad started a dive resort in Papua New Guinea, PNG, called Tawali. And it was basically started from, the ground up. When he chose the property there, it was just kind of just rainforest. And you really couldn't see anything from the shore. And he was able to start a dive resort there, brought all the materials in to build it up from the ground up. And so we were able to see it basically from, just the dirt level. And then on several other trips, we were able to see the development of the operation into a full-blown dive resort. And the diving there is incredible because you get to see a lot of different things, from the macro sea life, nudibranchs and little, pygmy seahorses, all the way up to larger, pelagic animals. So the diversity is pretty awesome.
But it's not only kind of about diving, is it? I mean, you live in Salt Lake, so you pretty much have the opportunity to do anything outside your door. I mean, we've been out there shooting, we've been doing different stuff, but there's one story that I thought was quite funny, thought I'd mention when you guys were hunting, and I think you were using was it a Sunta watch or something, because you nearly didn't make it home. Wow, you did, but tell us about it.
I think that was a story about Mike Hughes potentially.
Yeah.
We do a lot of different, sports here in Utah. So I'm from the Bay Area in California originally. That's where I grew up. And in the Bay Area, you have a lot of different activities outside, but to go to the mountains, you have about a 3-hour drive, to go skiing, hunting in the mountains, things like that. Here in Salt Lake, the mountains are only 20 minutes away. And as you remember being here, we were able to go to places outside and, shoot guns and all of that close to home. So to go skiing or backpacking or, things like that is very close to our home, and is a lot different than it was before, but it's really exciting and allows us to see more than we used to, for sure.
Well, we got some Prism divers asking more P2 related question. Is it true that in addition to an annual service, the P2 should return to the factory every 5 years for service?
No, the interval for the Prism service is every year, and there's really no need to otherwise send the unit back. If there was something that needed to be changed out within that period of time, it would be done during the annual service.
So, thanks for that, Rich. So tell us a little bit about what's next for Hollis, Nick. Do you have any secrets you want to give us?
There's a lot in the pipeline. There have been a lot of delays due to COVID, and normally we plan our business out months in advance, and we try and release products throughout the year, especially right now being the middle of the dive season. We normally have products that are being released, but several of those were pushed back a little bit due to COVID, and we'll probably see more for the Hollis line towards, I would say, the fall. Many categories are being worked on right now. The buoyancy line, we just released the katana, but we have some updates for the rest of the buoyancy line as well. And Oceanic also has some new things in the works as well. Hewish as a company has 6 or 7 different brands, and each brand has some exciting stuff in the works. So I would say stay tuned, and we'll release more soon.
Sweet. Do you want to tell us what's next for you? Do you have any other plans except coming to Truck, obviously in December?
Not yet. Truck is definitely next on my radar. It's not until December. So in the meantime, as soon as the quarantine lets up a little bit, we're going to be spending more time in the water. We do dive locally. There's a few dive sites here in Salt Lake City that allow us to get in the water and at least get wet. But once things open up, we can do some traveling again. I have at least one trip to Florida planned before Truck, and then Truck, I'm really looking forward to that. So that's about as much as I have on the immediate horizon.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this trip forever. It's finally happening. I can't wait. It's I mean, it's some of the best parts about this job is when you finally go to the destination again, because you miss it. But then again, most of the people on board by first name, and to be the one to show them the destination for the first time is pretty epic, I have to admit. So I'm looking forward to showing it to you, man. You're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, so am I.
All right, I think that's us kind of wrapped up for tonight. So without any further ado, thanks, Nick, for joining us, for coming clean with a Dirty Dozen. I hope you're good in Salt Lake City, and I hope to see you in New Orleans in November.
Yeah, same here, and thanks for having me. Look forward to maybe coming on again at some point. I'm glad to see you guys are doing what you're doing, because it gets people, interacting a little bit. Most are on their computers or on their phones anyways right now. So
yeah,
spend that time, tuning into things like this.
Yeah, we're just having a lot of fun, and it's just nice to reach out to friends and family and just have a good chat. So cheers for that, Nick, and I'll see you soon, brother.
Yeah. See you.
All right, everyone. So I think that's it for our 8th, I think, installation of Coming Clean with the Dirty Dozen. Remember, we have like 7 episodes on the YouTube channel at the moment. We obviously have it on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast. So just look up your local streaming service if you don't catch the whole thing live. And this episode will be there in the morning. So I think our next episode is on Monday, on the 18th of May, where we have a good friend of mine, Kirk Crack from Performance Freediving International. And we're going to be talking about technical freediving in Hollywood, which is quite a fun topic. He's one of the most prolific and innovative trailblazers in sport freediving. So it will be a really good one. I'm your host, Aron Arngrimsson. Stay safe in these wild times. Take care of yourself and each other. And if you're lonely, we're here to chat dirty. See you later, guys.